Good morning, friends. This morning I am out starting some cold hardy annual seeds. So I just wanted to continue the conversation from our last video about cold hardy annual seeds, hoping that you can pick up some tips and tricks to get going on your spring flowers right now. My name is Vanessa, and I'm growing a cut flower farm in Edgewood, Washington, Zone 8B. In 2017, I started growing cut flowers in my grandfather's garden to aid him in a romantic endeavor. And now, with the help of my partner, we're building a business and a community around the local flower movement in our little corner of the Pacific Northwest. Welcome to Pops. So I've got all of my trays here. They have been soaking all morning, so I know that the soil in them is saturated all the way down, and I'm ready to start putting in some seeds. I'm going to be starting right now with the Bupleurum. Now, I talked about Bupleurum in the last video. It is the most amazing filler for spring bouquets. Now, seed starting can be a little tricky. I know when I first started, it was one of the things I struggled with the most, and there are two big tips that I have for finding success with seed starting. The first one is to follow the instructions on your seed packet. Yes, I know that's really obvious, but especially if you buy from Johnny's, there is really good information on the packet that's going to help you be successful. It basically tells you what the seed needs to thrive. My other big tip is just to mimic what Mother Nature does, and I say this all the time in relation to everything on the farm as far as growing cut flowers goes, but it also is just so dang true when it comes to seed starting. So what does that mean? Especially when you're starting cold hardy annual seeds. Well, for cold hardy annual seeds, that means you are going to want to start them at a specific time of year. Your cold hardy annual plants are going to flower in the spring and maybe into very early summer. Then they're going to spend 4 to 6 weeks going to seed, which would put you in the middle of summer, and then they are going to drop their seed. And they'll probably lay there on the soil surface for a little while, waiting for just the right conditions to start. For instance, the mother plant to die back so that light can get to the seed, or maybe for fall and winter rains to start so that there's enough moisture for the seed to germinate. What that tells us as flower farmers is that we want to be starting our cold hardy annual seeds at the end of summer, maybe even early fall. In this case, it is October 4th, which is a little bit late to be doing my first round of cold hardy annual seeds, but not too late. I went ahead and filled this tray with Bupleurum. It is, like I said before, my most in-demand filler for spring, so it'll be great to have a 128 tray of that. The next step, obviously, is just to label everything really, really well. I was using these horrible plastic labels last year. I absolutely despise them. I have officially made the switch to using masking tape, which I just write on and then apply to the end of the tray. That is another trick I picked up from Lisa Mason Ziegler, and she did it for years. I watched her do it for years. I don't know why I waited so long to try it myself. It is an absolutely amazing way to label all your trays. So my next step for that tray would be to take it inside and top dress it with perlite, just as a top dressing, as opposed to compost. The other benefit is I don't have to go out to my compost pile and put a bunch of compost that's been sitting outside forever on top of my tray. It's full of bugs. I filled these trays already with sterile soil, like soil that I got out of a bag. Long story short, I don't want a bunch of bugs in my house. I'm still germinating my seeds inside, so that's something I have to be mindful of, particularly because of the fact that we live in a log cabin. We know that cold hardy annual seeds would like to have warm soil and cool air to germinate. Again, we take that cue from nature. After a quick top dressing with the perlite, they're going to get placed on seed mats. Now, some seed mats, heat mats. The next tray that I just completed is this apricot status, and this is where it really pays to pay attention to the directions on the back of the seed packet, unless you've been doing this so long you've got it all memorized. That's not me yet. This is only my second year doing Cold Hardy annuals, although I will say I love them so much. Like, I might love them more than summer annuals. But if you look at the back of your apricot status seed packet from Johnny's, it does say to do not cover seed as light aids in germination. So that tells me that I am not going to be putting the top dressing of perlite on this tray. I'm just going to label it and stick it on the heat mat. All right, that's our first 4 trays on the heat mat. We did go ahead and top dress with a little bit of perlite on the seeds that did require a little bit of darkness to germinate. So that's taken care of. Last thing that I am going to do to these trays is put some saran wrap over the top. Now we are trying to get away from plastics on our farm, particularly single-use plastics. It's the absolute worst. But I have found in my experience that it does help with germination because it helps keep everything moist. As trays sit on heat mats, they will dry out. So that's why we use the saran wrap. So I'm going to do that right now. Voila. I would expect to see some action on this table in the form of germination in 5 to 7 days, maybe sooner. That's one of the beauties of using a heat mat is it usually does make things germinate a lot faster than they normally would. For instance, in the summer, I start all of my sunnies on a heat mat and I usually get germination within 48 hours as opposed to like 5 days if I don't use a heat mat. Of course, no job is truly done until you've cleaned up. So I am going to take care of a little bit of cleanup I have to do right now. And then you may have noticed that I only did 4 trays in this video. I have to move on with my day. I have a lot going on, but I'm going to do the last 4 tonight. So just for those of you that are keeping track, that's that. Just going to rinse down my work area here. I don't want to leave wet soil on our deck. I went ahead and washed down the trays that go in the seed starting light rack. The deck is all washed off. We need to grab these 2 things and put them away. I'll come back for that. Job done. Hey, it's V from the future. I was just editing this video and I realized that I didn't actually film an outro. So thanks so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed and I hope that you learned something. We might do an official tutorial on starting cold hardy annual seeds in future, but for now, I hope you picked up some tips and tricks to help get you going on sowing some cold hardy annual seeds really soon. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of when our next video drops.